great. I mean, I had a great upbringing, man. My parents, hard workers, and because they were always at work, I was left with a lot of responsibility, and that was always to look after my sister, make sure that things in the house were in order, make sure that the homework was done, that, whatever little things around the house that, that you need to be responsible for, that was my job. And so, at a young age, I think I took on like a real independent attitude, and I loved it. I mean, I loved having that freedom, and sort of having that space and that trust, that my parents gave me. It was interesting because I grew up in a place called New City, which is in Rockland County. I got shuffled back and forth from there to the Bronx, and they were two totally different worlds. The Bronx is what it is, and it's an amazing place.
Tell us about growing up in the Bronx.
We spent a lot of time because my father went away to school and, for work and stuff. And my mother needed help. She was working, 12, 14 hours a day sometimes. And, all my family's in the Bronx. So we would, get dropped off at my aunt's house. And, they had a 3-story, 3-family house and, with an apartment on each floor. And so, it was my great-grandmother in the bottom floor, my aunt in the middle, and my grandmother and my aunt and uncle in the top floor. And so, there was always family and cousins and everybody around. And that part was amazing, I mean, I still stay there when I go home. I just came back. I just got back to LA yesterday, and I stayed there for a week, I don't think there's ever any other place that I'll stay at that I'll feel as much at home as that place on Castle Hill Avenue. But so going back and forth from there to New City, where I went to school, and that was where my parents' house was. We lived in this condominium complex with 400 other houses there, condominiums or whatever. And it was interesting because the population in each place was totally different. In New City was predominantly white, and it was consisted of mostly Jewish, Italian, and some Irish. Ethnicities. That was the makeup pretty much of New City, and so I was definitely, the oddball, so to speak. I mean, it was like in my school. I mean, maybe there were like 5 kids that were, of any sort of ethnicity. There were like 2 Asian kids, maybe 2 Hispanic kids, and and like 1 or 2 black kids.
And how did that feel?
It was weird because, you make your friends, and your friends never really make you feel uncomfortable, but, you do know that you're different, and then, of course, instances happen when other people, make you realize that more, even more than you do in your own mind, and that's hurtful, but it's all things that make you grow, you realize that at a young age, and I think, you can kind of take it 2 ways. You can take it and learn from it and rise above it, or you can let it defeat you. And I think I definitely learned from it, and make me want to work harder and be better. And that was a big thing with my mother. I mean, it was like knowing that difference. I mean, my mother definitely made it clear, if the rest of the world didn't, was that, you're the only Puerto Rican kid in the school, and, you can't be getting in trouble, and your grades have to be better, and you got to be smarter, and you got to, be better behaved, and you got to do, so all of these things that were like, pounded into my brain, I still managed to get into, quite a bit of trouble, but I always had that in the back of my head that, certain things that I wouldn't allow myself to do because I already knew that that I had that stigma, of being the only, Latino in the school. When I decided I wasn't going to go to college, which was right after high school, if I wasn't going to play sports in college, I didn't really want to go. I already knew that I was kind of over school, and I really didn't feel like, for me, going to school was going to be a wise use of any sort of money or loans or anything, because I just knew that whatever I wanted to do really wasn't going to be based around anything I was going to learn in college. I like to read a lot. I mean, I read nonstop. I felt like I had a good understanding of the world and traveling and stuff that that I really just didn't feel like spending 4 years of my life going to college. I sometimes regret it. I mean, friends of mine that went and had the time of their life, I look at that and I go, man, maybe I did miss out on something, but I don't think so. I mean, for me, the path that I chose, I'm very happy with. You know, the military, like I said, at 18, my mother's, because I told her she was disappointed I didn't go to college, it was either go to college, get a full-time job, or join the military. Otherwise, you got to get out of the house. And so military was a possibility for a second. And growing up, my father was in the Army Reserves, and he had been, he had served in the Air Force. And he kind of, he sort of dissuaded me from going to the military. He was like, look, everybody in the family's gone. I'd rather you go pursue other things. And so that was sort of, he was my deterrent from going. And that was it. I didn't go. I mean, I ended up enrolling in community college, and I was taking an acting class there, and I was loving it. And I was like, damn, you know what? I think this is it. I think this is something that I could, do for the rest of my life and be happy doing it. That was my main thing, just picking something as a career that I had a passion for, something that I loved. If it wasn't going to be baseball, it had to be something that I was at least going to be happy getting up every day to go do. I mean, especially at a young age, if you have the opportunity to choose a career path, choose with your heart, man, because, you're going to spend the rest of your life doing something. It might as well be something that you love. Why be miserable and getting up and going to work? I mean, we got enough miserable people in the world as it is. So that was real important for me, and it was acting. And so that was it. I kind of got on my road to doing that. I had a little sidetrack that I did for maybe like 6 months. I got a job. I was 19. I wanted to hustle and make some money so that I could have a little nest egg put away to support me as an actor. So I got a job at a stock brokerage firm, real kind of mid-level. It wasn't, like one of the big boys. And I got a job there as a stockbroker trainee, and I started studying to do that. And as I was sort of getting towards the end of, that, getting ready to get my license, I went to the office one day. I started looking around, and I was like, man, nobody here looks happy, man. And I was like, what am I going to waste 3 years of my life doing this for, just to make some money? I might as well just starve and do what what I want to do. And so that was it. I quit, and then that was it. I just pursued the acting full time. Well, funny enough, actually, I mean, my mother is third generation being born in the States, and then my father was first generation. Both his parents were born, his mother was actually born in Cuba, and his father was born in Puerto Rico. And so, I think more so than struggling with, being an immigrant, it was more struggling with just knowing that I was different where I was living. And then the funny part about it was when I would go to the Bronx, because I lived, 25 minutes away, it was still considered upstate. Right. So all the kids there, even though I knew them forever, they'd be like, you live upstate, you live up, where the cows are, where it's, farmland or whatever. But it wasn't like that at all. But I guess being in the Bronx and not really getting outside of the Bronx, they didn't understand that. But I think I'm kind of going off the beaten path of what you're asking me. But just talking about that, I mean, it just made me realize that I really, especially now at my age, looking back, I really had the best of both worlds. To be able to see those two worlds and know that, to go outside of one is not that big a deal. Sometimes you get caught up in being in this space. Whether it's the Bronx or, anywhere in the world, whether it's a small town or New York City. And, if you don't venture out and see what the world has to offer, it seems like it's like going, to the moon or something when it's not really that big a deal. But anyway, struggling with what you asked me. Really, like I said, I mean, the only struggle was just knowing that I was different and having to rise above that. It gave me a strong work ethic. I mean, seeing how hard my parents worked and the sacrifices that they made to, to be living up there where we were living, and to make sure that we got the kind of education that we did, and, got to see a different side of life. I had a great upbringing, man, and probably after the time I was about 10 years old, my father really found his niche in the world kind of and started making a better living. And, my mother always worked hard. She worked for an airline for almost 30 years. So there was a lot of stability there with her job, and we got to take great trips. Like once a year we'd take a trip, and the airfare was nothing. So I got to see a lot of great places. I mean, I was really fortunate. I had an amazing childhood. I wouldn't change anything about it. CSI Miami is great. I mean, without a doubt, it's the thing that has certainly brought the most attention to me out of everything that I've done, and I've had a great time doing it. It's yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's given me an opportunity to do a lot of things, that I've never gotten to do before. Some of that being travel, even if it's for promotion for the show, and get the kind of recognition on the street, and here in the States, and outside of the country. I just came back from Australia, where the show is hugely popular, and it's just unbelievable the response that you get from the fans. Getting ready to go to South America and to Mexico, and to Canada as well. I was in Italy last summer, and the show is huge there. So I mean, all of those things from CSI Miami, I'm very grateful for. It's been so far it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great ride. So I'm grateful for that. I get to play a positive Latin character on television. Which you're seeing more and more sprout up. But certainly I'm not satisfied with what's out there. I want more. I want to see more Latin faces. And more leading Latin faces. I mean, everybody that's out there pretty much is a supporting character. I think, other than maybe George Lopez on the George Lopez show, there aren't enough Latino leading men on television, and so, I think that needs to happen sooner than later. But CSI Miami's been great. I'm grateful for it. I'm having fun. Ride it till the wheels fall off.